a hole in the wall or scratches, you're gonna need to throw paint, whatever it is. So when we actually go through everything, we're seeing that the net operating income before we take out the mortgage is looking at just shy of $5K a month that he was having. After we take out the principal and interest, that is where it gets his $1,000 a month. This is something that most people would tell you is impossible in Arlington. And I mean, it's right here. It's proven that it actually happened over the last year. I don't know if I uploaded it, but I actually had his whole, his raw numbers for his expenses and stuff. Don't think I uploaded it here, so I won't pull that up. But I only want to point this out to say that even when you're like, man, there's nothing out there, there's no way to find it, if you know your niche, you can find it, 100%. So before I move on, anybody have any thoughts or questions on that before I sort of move on? Because Arlington is definitely an area that most people are looking at and saying, hey, how could I ever rent that out?
Yeah, that's definitely a different price point than my condo in here in Manassas.
Yeah.
A little bit different. I wasn't thinking about buying in Cherrydale, but I don't, I mean, you'll manage it for me, right?
I'll manage it.
Anybody want to help me fund it if I pick it out?
That was my question. What was the interest in that?
So this is why I wanted to use this one, is because he did not burn this, but he could have. Because he used his whole life insurance policy to actually find the cash.
He is just stacking strategies.
So he was exactly that, stacking strategies. So he used his whole life insurance policy in order to actually bring the funds in. He had a lower interest rate because of it, and he could easily pull the money out because now he has the ARV and the rental history to show exactly that, hey, this is working. The ARV is way higher than when I bought it.
See, this is why I'm saying you don't need to know everything, you just need to know the right people. And one of the most important questions to always ask them is like, hey, who do you know that I should know? Because they will introduce, like, when you ask that question, like if I asked you, Coleman, you're probably not gonna introduce me to someone who will not bring me any value, right? You're gonna go through your mental Rolodex and be like, okay, who could, like selfishly, who could I show him that would be like really impressive? He'll be like, oh, I'm so glad that, Coleman introduced me, right? So that's a really great filter. Imagine if everyone you met introduced you to the top 3 best people that they know in the industry, right? How quickly could you get through like 6 degrees of separation to the best people who could help you to that next level, right? So this guy who's stacking strategies, right?
It's massive. So if he wanted, he could pull those funds out now by refinancing, and yes, he'd have a higher interest rate, but he'd also have the $120,000 that he put into the property. So stacking strategies, even if you don't have what they would call cash, there's ways to get it.
And the thing is, it wasn't a BRRRR yet, but you can always do the refi 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, multiple times. Do it once now, 10 years from now, when all this equity growth has happened, do it again, right? Pull out even more cash.
100%, 100%. He's not worried about the cash flow, lucky him, right? But hey, that's how it works. So I wanted to use this as an example to talk about how if you understand your niche, you can find your BRRRR almost anywhere, pretty much anywhere, because there's always people out there, there's always situations out there that you can help.
I have a question. So these Cherrydale clients, are they a headache?
They're the best clients I have.
Clients you have, right?
Yeah.
That's usually the way it is, right? The more expensive the client, the less you actually interact with them because it takes a certain kind of quality for most people to get to that level. And
let's restate that just a little bit. I would say the more valuable the real estate they are renting,
sure,
the better the tenant, right?
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, if they're bad with money, they won't be able to afford that for very long.
Maybe.
I would actually like to take a second and actually sort of contradict, because the truth is, if you know what makes a good tenant and you know how to find out or find the answers to those questions, then any property you can find the right tenant for, okay? People talk about Section 8 and voucher programs as though they're this like, oh, stay away, you know, evil, whatever. That is not even close to the truth. If you understand your market, you can find the best tenant out of those markets. Just don't shoot yourself in the foot, you know? I know people, and that's actually something that's actually an interesting sort of segue, because I wanted to sort of see what people thought in the room about what are opportunities that you could have as a niche. right? Because the buy is obviously going to be a really important thing. You have to find the property first that makes sense. And you have to make sure the numbers make sense throughout the whole process. And by the way, this $63,000 renovation, that doesn't even include everything. There were things that came up after the fact that it always happens. Nothing comes out perfectly exactly how you imagine it. We had issues with the ventilation. Then 6 months after the renovation, when we got people in, we had to completely change out the HVAC. It was like 5,100 each, so 2 of those. So that's almost 1,200 right there. And then we had to go and do all the ventilation system as well because it was actually letting carbon monoxide in. Not great. Things can happen, and once you find them, you just have to make sure there's enough meat on the bone so that things can happen and you're going to be fine. But an interesting segue talking about the voucher program is I wanted to talk about how do you find a niche that can actually get you a property. And I was going to use a separate one because obviously this isn't where we are right now. We're in Prince William County, Arlington's way up there, whatever. So I was going to talk about a separate strategy that a different client of mine has used. He uses it in DC, but these are Prince William County numbers. And has anybody ever looked at what you get by having a voucher on a rental in Prince William County? Has anybody ever actually taken a second to look at it? Because the truth is, this sheet right here is an opportunity that people, I feel, overlook. Right? Yes, there are requirements. Yes, you're getting people who are in low income in order to be there. Low income doesn't mean anything. If you have low income, but you have 2 decades of landlords that are telling you that you're the best tenant ever, yeah, I'm gonna have no problem with the fact that you have low income. You're getting it paid, and honestly now, source of funds is a protected class anyways, in Virginia. But if we scroll down, this is the section that I wanted to actually focus on because this is an investment strategy that I have people in DC do, and I don't know anybody who does it here, at least personally. There are different groups. All of these, when you're reading these kinds of sheets, these are talking about voucher programs and how much you get in rent based on the number of bedrooms that there are. So in Haymarket, 1 bedroom, 2,800, just shy of 29. 2 bedroom, 32. 3 bedroom, 41, 4 bedroom, 49. There are some very significant jumps based on the bedroom count. I have investors who do nothing but voucher program investing, and they will find a property that they know has space for an extra bedroom. So instead of them having a 2 bedroom at $3,000 rent, they know there's space for a third, they spend the renovation cost to get the third, and now they're getting an extra $800 a month in rent. This exists everywhere. So it's all a matter of understanding your niche, understanding the right questions that you have to find answers to, and then putting it into practice.
So let's say I wanted to make this my niche. Now, let's just say.
Yeah.
And I wanted to call you up to be like, hey, I'm considering 123 Main Street. What do you think? Would you be able to help me get an idea?
Of course. The exact pro forma that you just saw is the one that I'll be able to send over. And we have it on fix and flips. We have them for everything. So it's not as difficult as people make it out to be, but it's complicated, right? It's not simple. It's just also not difficult. You just have to know your niche to be able to jump in. So Bristow, do you have a Bristow rental that's a 2 bedrooms, $800 extra, 700 extra here for a 4th bedroom? These are opportunities. So you have to figure out what your niche is that you'd like to focus on. Yes, we can help people find tenants, absolutely. And ultimately, the sort of segue here would be, Daniel talked a little bit about how you're investing in the tenant, not necessarily the area. And the reason that comes up is because if you have a good time or a bad time, there's typically one factor that's gonna actually change that, and it's just who the person is. If you get the right tenant in the property, you can make it work. If you get the wrong person in the property, you're screwed, okay? Talk about DC and how much of a nightmare that's been. We've been trying to evict somebody for 18 months. We finally got him out. And in the last 6 months of the eviction, we had $80,000 of lawsuits, just because the local regulations allow for it to be very easy for them to cause damage, and then report the damage. So now all of a sudden, we're sitting here having to go back and forth like crazy.
So if I was an investor and I was trying to decide between, oh, Maryland and DC, I keep getting all these deals from wholesalers. Virginia, I'm not getting as much. Can you help me compare these different localities and, what kind of a...
I can definitely paint the picture. But the truth is, it's going to come down to your niche. Whatever the niche is that you're looking at and buying is the one that you should know, and I guess it's not even that. It's not that you should know all of the ins and outs of that niche. It's that over time you will learn them, right? If you have a niche that is voucher programs in Prince William County, then after your first one, you're going to know 70%. After your second one, you're going to know 90%. After your third, you're going to know everything you need to know. So yeah, it's a learning process, but that's all this is, right? Thoughts, questions?
Well, what's an example of something that could make a state tenant-friendly or landlord-friendly?
Well, I can tell you DC has a $100 fee for them to be able to get an attorney. It's just they pay $100 and they get an attorney. They don't have to pay the rent for 12 months because they know that they're going to be able to extend it out or extend an eviction out to 24 months.
And that doesn't mean that you can't win in DC.
Definitely not.
But it means that you need to go in eyes open to understanding the asymmetric risk when it comes to fighting a legal battle with.
And have the right tenant, right? The one that I'm talking about right now, it was one tenant who had $80,000 of lawsuits that we dealt with over a 6-month period before we got them out. Okay, that's wild.
80,000, $100 on their end.
Exactly. So there's a real, when you take the picture and you, instead of just look at the trees, you actually look at the forest, you see what you need to know. And when you know the right tenant is in there, you know pretty much no matter what, you're gonna be okay.
I got my questions in. Guys?
Anybody have any questions about just rentals in general? Because that's obviously my forte.
You can break down a property you're looking into, like your Arlington, or your client in Arlington, he had a duplex, but you can look for properties anywhere that can have a format to form your own duplex, in the sense of private entrance and other things.
Oh, if you do the research, yeah, and I deal with people who have condo conversions all the time. So it's a simple process. It's not simple, I won't say that. But it's a process that you can learn. It's a process that you can learn how to get it to be qualified for what you need.
And come back in 2 months to talk about house hacking.
Which, Mike Weber can say it all he wants. I'm actually the house hacking king. I taught him everything he knows.
Being recorded. All right.
We can tag him.
Anybody else? Let's give Thomas a hand. Woo! All right. That was great. Pop, pop, pop.
It is 7:48, just so
Yep.
you're on the same page.
All right, did our Q&A. We do want you guys to continue building this community, so act like Gino and invite a ton of people, because he invites a ton of people. The more people there are in the room, the more opportunity there is for all of us collectively to learn and to grow, to connect with our next potential partner. We're going to do our next breakout, 5 minutes. What I want to, and the reason we're doing this is so I have a chance to prepare the referral raffle. We're about to give away our book and send you home, or if you want to stay and network more, you can do that. But while I'm prepping that, I'm going to encourage all of you to build your brand with your audience. Most of you have a sphere of influence of friends and family, like my sister is willing to invest in my deals because she knows I do this. Don't be a secret agent. Let your family know that you have an interest in this and that you're here doing stuff like this, because you can unlock some hidden opportunities. By the way, if I meet you, who was it that followed me on Instagram from yesterday? That was you, right? Yeah, so I checked him out because I wanted to find out, what's this guy like? Could he be a potential partner of mine? People will stalk you online and find out about you. And if you look like, you've got the cartoon icon and 0 posts and it's like you're a ghost, that doesn't encourage trust. So I would encourage you to start building your brand a little bit better. Do